So let's start. Hello and welcome to our third Know How event this year. I'm very happy to see that so many of you have made it to this event. We're almost 100 participants, which is great because this event is a bit more interactive today. So it's great to see so many of you have joined. The topic today is the Web3. There will be a general overview of its basics, and our lovely speakers will dive into terms such as NFTs, like what are they, how to buy them, etc. And also the Metaverse, to show which role they play within the Web3. And they will also be talking about future trends and how they will develop, especially in the startup context. Our speakers today are Benjamin and B, but before they will introduce themselves, I would like to inform you about some organizational matters. You can ask questions at any point in the discussion, either in the chat or by raising your virtual hand, and then we'll give you the time to ask. Please mute yourselves and turn on your camera so that we get the feeling of having a real discussion. Okay, so that's it from my side. So Benjamin and B, the stage is yours.
Hey, good afternoon, GM.
Hi, B. Hello, everyone. Super cool that we're here. Thank you, Amalena, for introducing us and welcoming everyone. Amalena is our new working student in our events team, and I think she did a great job because it's actually her first event where she introduced us. So thank you so much, Amalena. It was super, super cool. Thank you.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Super cool that everyone is here, that so many people joined the call. We have a super special surprise guest, and that's B. I'm super happy to have you here, B. Super cool. Welcome.
I'm very happy to be. Well, I'm always happy to talk Web3, so it's a pleasure to join.
Super cool. So some of you might know you, and maybe some of you may not know you. So maybe could you just introduce yourself? Like, what are you doing? Why are you here? Just give an overview. Who is B?
Yeah. Who is B? Yeah, right. Because as you can see, the pseudonym, my pseudonym, I don't go by my civilian name, but the Beauty and the Punk was the name that I chose for the Web3 scene. And it doesn't roll off the tongue. And Beauty, as some people started calling me, sounded too narcissistic. And B just seems friendly and nice. So please, everyone, call me B. I very much appreciate that. I have been around since 2017 when I claimed Cryptopunks. The Cryptopunks were an experiment done by Lava Labs, and they are pre-NFT basically. So ESC 721. We're gonna talk about more all these jargons that we use on a daily basis. So they're this standard contract that we use for NFTs. And I was very fortunate to be able to claim a few of them back then. And including, well, actually, I can't share here my PFP, my profile picture, but it's the ape that I use as a profile picture. So I've been around since 2017. I started collecting because it just made sense, because I like collecting art before that anyway. And I just started collecting more and more. And I'm probably one of the, if not the largest, one of the largest female collectors in the space. I have produced some of my own art, and I have my own Web3 company, startup, and I have an organization to help onboard more women to the space, because unfortunately it is very male dominated. I think it would be nice to have, more voices to join this conversation. So that's me. I've been around for a while. I'm happy to answer any questions you guys might have. And looking forward to the conversation we're going to have then.
Super cool. Thank you, B, for introducing yourself. It's really amazing. We got to know each other some months ago, and since then we are in contact. And I'm always amazed by your expertise. I always also had an interview with you for a German startup magazine before. So I'm really looking forward to our talk. Maybe for all the participants, how it will go down today. We will have basically a conversation about NFTs, about Metaverse, about Web3, what it all means, what's all behind the hype, right? We will show you some examples, and that will go for maybe like half an hour, 40 minutes. and then we'll actually jump into a Q&A, because I guess you all have a lot of questions because it's quite a new topic still. Yeah, so we'll have like some talk and some Q&A. So maybe B, you are anonymous, right? So like everyone is now can see your profile picture. You're called B, and that's quite common in the NFT Web3 world. Like maybe like why is that? Like why are people anonymous? Why is that a thing in the space?
Yeah, well, personally, I'm gonna speak personally first, and then I can try to see you in a broader sense. But
Yeah.
I don't know if everyone knows it. Well, definitely not, because not everyone knows who I am. But I'm Brazilian, so not only I am one of the few women in the space since then, but I'm also Brazilian, and you can see that the portfolio has grown to quite an extent, and also for security reasons and for my family and everything. So it's nice to keep a low profile, and I don't live a flashy life anyway, but in any case, I think it's just safer and nice that people connect to you on a personal level, and then you can live your life as you would anyway, without anyone really connecting, coming to your door or calling your phone number, because you can keep this anonymity. So your life basically doesn't change. There's mainly benefits, I guess, from the Web3 side of things.
Yeah.
And I think that's most what people look for in anonymity. Just keeping a low profile, keeping their heads down, and just trying to work. And we don't need the fame. We just want to have fun and bring other people up with us.
Awesome. And I mean, I also hear a lot of these stories, people that we know their lives completely changed within a year, basically, and even their families didn't know, right? Like they claim punks or like Bored Apes, and now they're able to live a completely different life. So NFTs changed a lot of lives, I think, and for some it's then vital to stay anonymous, right?
Yeah, definitely. Not only for claimers of big projects like punks and apes, but also for artists. There are several artists that are anonymous, and they didn't really manage to live from their art before. They made art, and they had to have other jobs that weren't as fulfilling, and they did find in this space recognition, because of course you can connect to a much larger number of collectors than you would in the flesh, like in traditional art collection, because you need to talk to galleries, you need to talk to museums that would maybe showcase your art, and there are a lot of gateways. But on Twitter, for example, you can put your art up and maybe someone will like it and buy it. So you're really broadening your circle. And a lot of artists also have really found success through this new contract form.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's jump right into this, right? Because some of the listeners here might be completely new to the topic, right? And for those, we would start like actually in the beginning, like the foundation of like, what are we talking about, right? What is Web3? What are NFTs? So I want to start like, NFTs are based on blockchain. And for the people that have never heard about blockchain or like have no idea about blockchain, basically the idea is to store information decentralized. So like usually you have your information, your data stored on one computer or one server, right? And the idea of blockchain is to store it decentralized on many thousands of computers or nodes. And that makes it quite secure, because hacking 10,000 different computers is quite challenging compared to hacking one computer. So that's basically like super easy explained what blockchain is. And information that is on the blockchain basically is always like put into blocks and put on a chain. So that's why it's called blockchain. So every new information is a new block of information and gets added to the blockchain. So that's why it's called blockchain. And that's the basis for everything. And coming to NFTs, what are NFTs? NFTs are non-fungible tokens, so not exchangeable tokens, so unique tokens, basically. What does it mean? Basically, it can be a digital picture, it can be a music file, it can be a video, it can be basically any digital file. And what it does is actually it shows proof of ownership. So B, you might also notice, right, like the copy paste, the JPEG thing that's going around. So like basically before NFTs, you could just copy paste every picture, every music file that was digital. And now if you put them on the blockchain, it shows proof of ownership. So like your punk, that punk here belongs to you. And to you only, right? And everyone can see,
Exactly.
and everyone can see also on the blockchain can see like that's belonging to Beauty and the punk and no one else.
Exactly. And there's a lot of we know a lot of people that have been using images from other people, and even if you don't mind that people do use that image, but at least everyone knows it's yours. And that is something that when Ben was talking about the blockchain and you add new data, but you cannot, the data that is on the blockchain is immutable. You cannot change what's on the blockchain. So there's no way someone's going to fake a record of something. It's mine. For example, the PFP that you're looking at, I minted that. And we're going to talk about minting as well. So I put that on the blockchain as being mine. And if anyone wants to use it, by all means, go for it. I'm super up for it. It's like some people contacted me to put it on Metaverse clothing. Yeah, go for it. Like, I'm super up for it. I think it's great. I think it's amazing.
Yeah.
But it's mine, and it will always be until I pass it on to someone else. And that will also be registered.
Yeah. And that brings us basically to this whole Web3 topic, because we started years ago with Web 1, right? Like that was called the so-called information economy. So like you went on a website, basically Google, Yahoo, like you all know these, and you got information from the internet. Like that's it. Like you couldn't change it. Like it was just like an information that you got from websites, basically. And then what we are now in is actually Web 2.0, right? Like that everyone knows, it's the platform economy, like businesses like Facebook, Uber, and all these, and also German companies like Flixbus, etc., that have platform business models where you get information, but you also exchange information. You can change information on the internet. You can put up your own information. And that's kind of like the description of Web3, and it's made possible by NFTs, is the so-called ownership economy. Now it's possible to own digital goods. And that basically changes the whole game, right? Like, and why is that, B? Like, can you maybe explain like Web3, like why does it matter and why is it exciting?
Well, I think we're moving away from just being used as data to owning our own data even. Yeah, so everything that we put out there, it's our own to own. So it's not like we're putting information on Facebook and they can use it as they see fit. They can sell it to whoever they want. And we are changing the landscape on that. So the information that we have, that my information, I choose what to do with it, and I will not give it up to a corporation unless I see value in it, and a lot of value. For example, I haven't had Facebook, I don't know, like how many years, and I don't subscribe to that type of web anymore. So I really connected to Web3. I really sympathize and see myself in the values that Web3 expresses, that I don't want to be used by a corporation to make money, and then and in Web3 we have different types of organizations where everyone has the same, the vote counts the same, where people really are we're equal to, of course, to an extent. If you're the member of the same organization, in that organization we're all equal, and that's very important, and that's something that we are just flipping a bit on its head, and that I very much like it.
Super cool. And maybe because we're talking about NFTs and we're talking a lot about like art in that space, it's also more than art, right? Like, but maybe for everyone that like has never bought an NFT, like is super new to the space, just like I will give you some information about like what types of NFTs there are, right? So like the most famous ones are basically computer generated art. Like how does that work? So basically you don't draw pictures, and mostly, and if you look at Cryptopunks, for example, you have a collection of 10,000 different Cryptopunks, right? How does that work? Like you can't basically paint 10,000 NFTs. So what you do is basically you generate images, and you can see that here, just an example of like this nice snowman, and it has a background, right? A background color, and then it has a scarf, and it has different hands, and it has different body types, and it has a different hat. And basically you use that imagery to put it into code, and that code is then randomly generating an NFT with it. So basically you say you have 10 different types of scarves and 20 different types of bodies, and the code is then randomly putting it together and then creating basically a computer generated image. Like that's what it is. And the most famous one, of course, are Cryptopunks, and you own a lot. And maybe you can talk a bit how it evolved. Like you claimed them, right? Like what does that mean? Because you also said there's minting. Maybe you can explain a bit like you claim Cryptopunks, but usually you mint NFTs, right? Like how did it work for you?
Well, back then they were all minted, so they were all available for everyone to see, basically. And we would just claim as and say, oh, I want that one, I want that one. For Bored Ape Yacht Club, when was a different thing, we did the minting, and there you would pay for 1, 2, 3, and then you would get random ones. You don't know what you're gonna get when you do a minting of art, of an NFT. You don't know what you're gonna get, so it's a surprise. So you can be very lucky, or you can get something very, very mundane, that's not very rare. But on CryptoPunks, it wasn't the case. That's why you say you claim them. They were all there for everyone to see.
And they were free back then, right? Like you didn't have to
They
pay
were
for
free.
them.
You just had to pay gas. Yeah, you just had to pay gas. And in 2017, like gas was very cheap, and Ethereum was very cheap. So I don't know how much I paid for my CryptoPunks in total. Maybe 20 euros. I don't know, something like that. Yeah, and I claimed 39. I still have, I think, 33. I sold a few. I actually, after the claim, because the thing is, when you see something, if I was already into ETH. That's how I found CryptoPunks. And so you see something like that and you go like, this is unique. This has to go somewhere. You don't know where and you don't know when, but it has to be more to it. There is something in there. This is different. There has to be value to it somehow, even if you don't know exactly how. So I claimed mine, and I know I didn't claim much. I know there are people that claim like thousands, but I also thought, I know it's silly, but I thought if there are just a couple of players in the game might not evolve, right? So we need a good number of players in the game to be able to really take off. So I claimed mine. I was happy. I'm happy with my portfolio, and I was able back then to see visually we could not sort by category, attributes, nothing like that. To see that there were apes and they seemed rarer, and I managed to get 4. And in the end, there are 24 apes. I managed to get 4. Aliens were all claimed when I got them, and I got a couple of zombies. And that was it. Like I got a couple that visually seemed good for me, like that visually is appealing, and a couple of rare ones. And then 2 days after claim, I put one of my apes for sale for 37 ether. And imagine, like we claimed them, they were worth nothing, literally, because they were for free. And I put it for 37, and I completely forgot about it. And then, like 2 years later, I saw on Twitter a tweet from Lava Lab saying that it was sold. And I'm like, I think that's my ape. I think I put it for 37, and it was. And I'm like, okay. Then I got back into NFTs, and that was 2019.
Cool.
I really got back into the deep of it. Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy. And maybe to understand for everyone, like you need Ethereum to buy NFTs. Like there are also like Solana and other cryptocurrencies, but mainly, and the big NFT collections are running on Ethereum. And because you mentioned some aliens and etc., some different types, right? Maybe for everyone to see like what it is. If you've never bought something, I'm now showing the example of Bored Ape Yacht Club, which is at the moment basically the biggest NFT project in the world. And it's also a collection of 10,000 different looking apes, basically. And you can see them here. And they have different traits. So, and on the left side here, you can see that you can sort, for example, for different hats. Okay, so let's do this. Let's look into this. So, for example, there's a Bored Ape with a beanie, and you can sort for this, right? And let's see how the beanie Bored Apes look like. Okay, they now have this beanie hat on. So that's basically a trait that only 578 out of the 10,000 have. So that makes it rare, right? So like you have to think of NFT collections when it comes to these like 10,000 NFT collections. You have to think of it like a card game, basically, that you played maybe when you were a child, when you had like different cards and like, I don't know, fire trucks, and the one was smaller and bigger, and you compared them. And of course, the biggest one was the most rare and the most valuable then, like trading cards, basically. And that applies also for CryptoPunks, that applies for Bored Ape. So that's what you mean, right? Like, and then you have, if I'm looking here, where is it? Maybe background, eyes. So like, you know, there are different traits that you can choose and see how rare something is, and it makes it more
this is
expensive.
programmed into the mint. You know,
Exactly.
they program for some traits to be rarer than others. And this is desirable in a collection because you have rarer items and not. It was as Ben said, like in my case was football, you know, cards that we, you know, from footballers that we exchanged. And that was it. Like somewhere you buy a pack with 5, almost all packs would come with one of the guys, and that was super rare to get someone else. So
Yeah.
you would also go for, you know, exchanging your cards to be able to get that grail. And that was it. That's basically it with and all of these 10K PFP collections that are put out there. They have rarity, and there's something that you really have to pay attention to, because it depends how much you're going to buy for, how much you can pay, and how much you want to pay. So yeah, it's very important to keep track of trades, but very important to tell also that a trade may be not as rare, but very visually appealing, so it might be more expensive. So that also plays into account, you know, not only how rare it is, but also if people really like the look, because in you know, in the end, it's all visual stuff. We really have to like the look of it. So some stuff is very rare, but not many people like the look of it. So it has value, of course, because of rarity, but it might be on par with something that's not as rare, just because, you know, of the appeal.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, of course, there are also other NFTs that don't have rarity at all, right? For example, photography, right? Like, I mean, it's basically a no-brainer to like have photography on the blockchain and then sell your photographs to others, right? Like, because that just makes sense. Because in the past, like, I mean, yeah, you could maybe sell it somewhere on some platform, but now you can literally put your photographs on the blockchain and sell it to others. Like you would in real life, right? And then it's basically only if you like them, right? Or if they're spectacular, maybe like that one here, Drifter Shoots is a really, really cool one, really famous one that was not also sold at Christie's. But that's also a category, of course, for NFTs to put your pictures basically on the blockchain. And also that applies for music. So maybe some of you have heard of that, but Snoop Dogg is one of the bigger collectors, NFT collectors in the scene. And he actually also now, allegedly, well, and he now actually released a music album basically on the blockchain, on OpenSea. You can buy it there, and you can buy his songs and then also own the rights to this music, which is, in my opinion, quite exciting. And you talked about like 30 ETH and like 50 ETH and I want to maybe show you and maybe ask a question to the audience. What you see here, what I used as an example image, these are 9 Cryptopunks. And maybe for the ones who are not so deep in the space, just by writing in the chat, everyone, just write in the chat, what do you think for how much money these 9 Cryptopunks have been sold? Just write in the chat, just a wild guess. Like, what do you think? Like, because we talked about a little bit of money, like 30 ETH, whatever, like how much?
Just as information, there are only 9 aliens in the collection of 10,000. So
exactly,
that's quite rare.
Exactly. It's quite rare. The alien is quite rare.
Yeah.
All right. So we have exactly all 9 together. It was like one prize for 9 JPEGs, for 9 pictures. 2 billion, 500,000, 5K. All right, we're quiet. Okay, 900K.
That's a spread.
That's widespread, yeah. 2 million, 2.7 million, 10 million. All right. Yeah. Yeah, 10K. All right. Actually, someone was almost right. They sold for 16.7 million at a Christie's auction. So you can see like these pictures are actually worth a lot, and there's a huge market for it. And I also think because we're coming kind of like an NFTs evolved from the art scene, and I think, you know, the whole space was somehow craving for this. And also, if you're looking, for example, at Bored Ape, the floor price, which is basically the cheapest NFT you can buy online. I looked it up today. Floor price for Bored Ape is at the moment like 100 ETH, which is like round about 300K. And B, you also mentioned that sometimes it doesn't matter if it's rare or whatnot. People just buy because they like it, or maybe the NFT resembles themselves, right? Like it might look like yourself. And actually, if you can see here, some of the stars are now getting into it. Also, Eminem and other musicians actually bought punks and apes that might resemble themselves, right? And then, and that was the one of the highest sales in NFT history. And I think most of you that listen have heard of that, because I think last year that drew a lot of people into the space, basically. And a lot of people heard for the first time about NFTs when people sold the first 500 days. So like basically 500 pictures put together in one that he made over the last years. And it sold for almost 70 million. So there's a lot of money in that space. So what do you think? Because we now talked, about this more the collections, right? Like, so you have 10,000 NFTs, they have rarities, kind of like this collector vibe. But what do you think about art? Because you said you collected art before, right? Do you also collect NFT art? And what do you think about the whole art scene, basically, in that space?
I absolutely love it. I used to collect art anyway, but I think my oldest piece of art is from the 1500s or 1400s, and so it's something that I liked anyway, and I tried to invest as much as I could for a long time. And then after Cryptopunks and getting into the NFT space and connecting with the artists, I think this is brilliant because it just opens my eyes to, I like the art, and then I connect to the artist, and then I see things that I hadn't seen in the art, and it just speaks to me in different levels. And this is so enriching. It's such an enriching experience. And I have art that I cherish a lot more because I know the artist, I know the story behind it. There's so much more emotion, and art is all about emotion. So I don't even know how many NFTs I have. I definitely over 700. And I don't only collect on Ethereum. I also collect on Tezos, mainly because I also wanted to support artists that do not have the money to get into Ethereum. Because if you come from a developing economy, I'm Brazilian, I know how it is to buy ETH when it's like 24,000 reais, like this is the Brazilian currency, for one Ether. Like this is what people make in a year. It's insane. So I started collecting on Tezos to support artists from different backgrounds. And I have found amazing pieces of art, amazing artists. And I have, slowed down a bit my purchases there. And I have to go back because there's amazing generative art, there's amazing digital art, photography, music. There's just so much expression that we are able to find. Yeah, definitely.
And it's amazing what you say, because what I see in Web3 is basically that it democratizes basically, the whole art scene, but also when it comes to, as said, like music, but also we will now look into maybe some other topics as well, like fashion or many more topics, and it democratizes, it brings more people to the space and offers them new ways of earning an income, right? I mean, that's really, and you do that, and I love your project, Rise DAO. Maybe you can tell something about Rise DAO, what you do there, because that's really connected to what you just said, right?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's just I was always seeing this tweet saying, "Oh, show me women art. Where are the women artists?" And like, we're here, we're not being seen. Yeah, there's not enough, and we have to bring more. How do I do this? So the first step of this project is to then onboard 10 women, 10 artists, and we're going to showcase them and try to get them to their collectors, because that's something that's also daunting. You're going to join a space. Where do you even begin? My DMs so direct messages on Twitter, my DMs are always open. People can always reach out. Sometimes it takes a while for me to get back, but I try to reply to everyone, I kid you not. So I'm always open to helping people get into the space. And how could I do this for more women? So we're going to have several like classes of women, like the class of January, so February, March, and we're going to start doing that like on the regular, just onboarding women on the regular now. And yeah, so to make it a little bit less daunting, and the second phase of our project is help women become developers, because there are a lot of male developers and very, very few women. It's traditional that women don't go into STEM, and technology is, there is a big barrier there. So if we can provide a safe space for them to become a junior dev, and then they can go out and further qualify and start getting jobs, that's what we need. We need to have more voices building Web3.
Cool. So basically, for the ones who never heard of DAOs as well, what you're doing is you're not doing an NFT, you're doing a DAO, which is a decentralized autonomous organization. How does that work? What's behind the concept of a DAO? Maybe you can elaborate on that.
So I think it's a little bit what I said in the beginning, is like, if there's an organization, we try not to have a chief, or a boss in the organization. I created it, and when I start selling the tokens for my DAO, if you want to become part of my DAO, you're going to invest a little bit of your money, and your voice is going to be as valued as mine in there. It's not because I created it that I'm going to have, like, I'm not the CEO of Rise DAO. This does not exist. Everyone has a vote. All votes count equally, and then we decide where we go from there. How do we use the money that we have gathered? Who do we onboard? Are we going to onboard more people? Are we going to do the dev training for women? So we all decide the next steps together. And this is something we're not very used to in, the traditional way the things have been done, for centuries, millennia, because there's always someone in charge.
Yeah.
So there is someone in charge of organizing, basically, all the ideas that people put in, and then how we vote on them. But that's it. Not that one person has, a Minerva vote on it.
Yeah. So basically, the decentralized web, that's what we talk about, Web3, like DAOs. This is one organizational form of it, right? Like, so basically, you have to own a Rise DAO token, and with that token, I have a vote and can basically vote on every topic that you want to decide on, right? Like, that's the concept behind it.
This is something that I'm also part of another DAO that is quite successful in the space, which is the Nouns DAO, and our treasury.
I'm showing the website right now.
Yeah, wonderful. Yeah, so Nouns are these images that you see. They're created by an artist called Grumpling, and believe it or not, I am the only woman that holds a noun.
Oh wow!
And yeah, exactly. And you can see our treasury is now 21,500 ether. So how do we spend that to further our cause, like our noun cause? So what do we want we want our brand to be known. We want all the images are CCO, so anyone can use the image from my noun or any other noun, because we want to proliferate the message. And we also do like good things, like we paid for glasses for kids. We supported the build of a skate park, so young people have a safe space to go to. So we donated money to the Ukraine. I think it was like 100 ether or something.
Yeah.
So those are the proposals, and then you have a minimum quorum. How many people have to vote to have something approved. You can prove for, against, or neutral, and then the motion goes through or not. And it's really nice. It's nice to discuss with other people from the community to see what we want to do, how do we want to do it, where are we going, how do we get there.
Yeah. So basically, if I get that right for everyone listening here, so like every day there is a noun auctioned off, right? Like, so what you can see here now on the screen is like noun 248. So that's like the noun today, and you can basically bid on it. And if you get it, and let's look at the last noun, the winning bid was like 72 ETH, which is, I don't know, 100,000, 150,000 euros, something like this. And basically then you're part of Nouns DAO, and the money goes into a treasury, right? And with that treasury, you decide, every noun owner can then decide on things you want to do, right? Like, that's basically the concept. And you already said it, like, there are 21,000 ETH, which is like $65 million in it. And everyone is then deciding on what we do with the money, basically, right? That's like,
for example, we did the collaboration with Budweiser for the Super Bowl advertisement. So we had Nouns, Nouns glasses appearing in the advertisement for the Super Bowl, which is a huge event in the US. So, and we're also sending a noun to space. So there's a lot of stuff, and there's noun stuff to promote our brand, and there is real life stuff, like giving out money to Ukraine or giving out money for glasses for kids. Like there's all of it.
Cool, perfect. So now we covered DAOs, which is a huge topic in the space. And to be honest, because I'm coming from the startup scene as well, I see that as well. Like for many startups, it can be part of their company, or even it can be the whole company. It's a completely new form of organization, and it makes a more democratized, evil way of making decisions as well. It's quite exciting, I think. Also, like how to onboard new users and give them a voice, basically. So it's actually quite exciting to see these new forms of organizations. And maybe let's jump into how to get started with NFTs, because people that listen might ask themselves, and we said it already, like we on Twitter and DMs. So what's happening? Basically, what do you need to get started with NFTs? And basically, these are two networks that the whole ecosystem is using. One is Discord, which is like a chat, and the other one is Twitter. And then there's MetaMask, which is your crypto wallet, basically. So you store your Ethereum in your wallet. It's basically like an offline wallet, but you have it in your browser and you store your Ethereum in there. And that's basically it. And the right thing is, of course, a little joke. A lot of people look like this in the NFT space. So what do you need? What is a wallet, basically? And that is exciting for me because back in the day, like you maybe used to log into a new website with your Facebook account, right? Or you created a new account, giving in your email address and maybe your telephone number, etc. What you do now in Web3 is basically you use your wallet, your crypto wallet, to log into websites. So when you're on OpenSea is the biggest platform, it's basically the eBay for NFTs. You log in to an OpenSea with your wallet. So you don't have to create an account. You just have your universal login, basically, with your favorite crypto wallet. You pay with your wallet, of course, that's why it's called a wallet. But also, if you have the right tokens in it, you can also vote. Like if you have the RiseDAO tokens in your wallet, you could then vote for RiseDAO actions. So, and maybe and that's a really good advice for all the beginners. If you buy NFTs, and if you have valuable NFTs, you should buy a cold wallet, like a hardware wallet, right? Like how do you use it? Maybe you can explain a little bit about this. Like how do you store your NFTs? How does that work?
Yeah, so there are two things. You can have your MetaMask wallet that there are other wallets as well, but like MetaMask is, I think, the most used one, that you connect to websites, and it's very straightforward, easy to use. I know everything sounds a bit daunting because it's new, but once you pass that barrier, you see it's not very complicated, but it's very easy for anyone to reach. So that's your hot wallet. It's very hot. It's, you connect it everywhere. And then if you have anything of value to you, anything you don't want to lose, you put it in what we call then the cold wallet, as Ben was saying, like a ledger, and the one that's in the picture there. What happens is every time that a transaction has to be done through a ledger, there are more approvals that need to be done manually. So it's not like a USB. Your stuff, if you lose your ledger, if you have everything to recover it, you'll be fine. It's not a USB. It's not like everything is in there. Everything's on the blockchain still, but it needs extra set of approvals. So it's not like someone can hack it easily. On the other hand, a MetaMask is a lot easier to hack. So you have to be careful not to clicking links. Who is it that you lend your computer to? Who is it that everything that you do, you have to be more careful. That's basically it. If you don't mind losing because it's a couple of NFTs that didn't cost much, and you keep it in your MetaMask. But if it's something more valuable, then it also depends how safe you keep everything, like all your systems running. Like first thing I do, and I tell people, just don't have the browser that you have your MetaMask on, don't have it as the browser that any link would open to. Like that would be your first line of defense. If you use MetaMask on Chrome, just have Firefox or Safari as your standard browser. Because then at least the link is not going to open there. So depending on how the exploit was going to be done, it could not work. So you try to get it, as secure as you can get.
And there's so many scams now going on in the space because it's a new space. A lot of money is involved, so there's a lot of also bad things going on. So you have to be careful, actually. So it's actually really valuable. And also for tools and marketplaces, for everyone that want to get started, as said before and as shown before, OpenSea is basically the biggest NFT marketplace. It's an eBay for NFTs. You can buy NFTs, you can sell your own NFTs, you can just upload your NFTs to the blockchain through OpenSea and then sell it, right? Like, but there are also other platforms like Rarible or Non-Origin or LooksRare, and some of them focus a bit more on like valuable art, more on art, more on photography. But just like, you know, go on the websites, just have a look. And then there are also, if we come back to, for example, Bored Ape or CryptoPunks, if you have collections with like these 10,000 different pictures and a rarity, then you could go to Rarity Tools or Rarity Sniffer and actually see how rare an NFT is and if it might be of value, right? And then there's also swaps. So if you have Ethereum and you want to swap it into other cryptocurrencies, you can use a Uniswap or PancakeSwap or other platforms to do so. Just to give you some addresses. Is there anything that is missing, B? Is there anything big that you might use? Any tools that are super important for you if you're collecting NFTs? Anything missing?
Well, these are all ETH based.
Yeah.
But you know, if you're gonna go for Tezos, for example, then you'd like to have object or FX hash. But I think, and I would say for even on Ethereum, if you're gonna go for generative art blocks is the standard. You can buy on the secondary on OpenSea. OpenSea is really, as Ben said, like if you don't know where to go, you go to OpenSea and then you start there, right? But
Exactly.
you go on to Foundation because they have more curated art. Even the same artist might have different collections in different marketplaces, and that's how they have different prices. So one collection is more valuable and they put it on Foundation, and something that they're not charging very much for, they put on OpenSea. There's also the difference of contract. There are different contracts that you can use to mint something. I personally am not a huge fan of the OpenSea contract, but I will support artists that put it on there as well, although it's not my favorite. But you know, there's also all the stuff that we can, you know, eventually talk either today or another day. But to go more into depth, there are different types of contract, and they also work in different platforms. And if you just want to mint something and you don't even want to put it for sale, if you want to have your own contract, that's also an option. There's Manifold. They're doing a great job. It's super smooth to use. It's incredibly easy. They are very straightforward on the explanation of how the platform works and how do you mint on your own contract. It is incredibly easy. I was very surprised.
Yeah.
And so you can also have your own contract and put your own things in it. So you really own everything you can do on Web3.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you. So now I think we covered like how to get started with NFTs, and maybe as a last bigger topic, let's talk about Metaverse, because there's so many rumors about it. I think a lot of people are you know, like not really getting like what is it, and isn't it like somehow stupid to run in this 3D world? Like what is it all about, right? And maybe to get started, because I mean everyone heard in the news, Facebook is now called Meta. Is Metaverse equals Facebook? Like what is it, right? Like maybe can you, because I know you have a strong opinion also on Meta, maybe can you just explain how would you describe Metaverse, and maybe what's the difference to Meta, right?
Yeah, well, I love Metaverse. I think it's a great way for us to keep connecting with people that we are so far away that we, of course, physically wouldn't be able to reach, especially now with so many restrictions in our lives. So I am a big fan of the Metaverse. I think it's a great way to explore new things, new ways to connect, different things that you can do. So I think I think passion for the Metaverse is going to be huge because we want to express ourselves independent if we're out in the street, in the flesh or in the Metaverse, and we want to express ourselves. We want to find our own voice, our own personality, how to express our personality in those spaces. And I think it's inevitable. I think we're gonna have more and more events Like if we could have this event in like all little people's like going into the metaverse, that's also a different kind of experience instead of just sitting in front of the screen. So I think we're going to start developing those tools, and they're going to get cheaper, they're going to get more available. I think we're going to start connecting in different ways. It's not necessarily to, you know, go to school, because we still need human contact. We need, there's a lot that we need to do in the flesh. But I believe it's going to be big, and it's going to be inevitable more than anything. And as you said, like I'm not a big fan of Meta, or, you know, what used to be Facebook. And because again, they're going to use all of these things that we are trying to build that are not centralized, that your data is your own, and they're just going to rip off this data and try to manipulate the information that they give you, or, you know, just put you in the same bubble of information that you have always been, and use your data to sell it to make money. So there are so many types of metaverse that you can go into. You know, there are lands that you can buy in different places, and you see where your tribe is going to be in, and that's what you try to go to. But hopefully you can find a tribe in a place that's really your own, and that's what I'm hoping that people will see.
Yeah. And what I loved, like last year I joined NFT London, and that's how we got also in contact, right? And there was a talk also about metaverse, and someone said like, well, because everyone is asking always like, why should I do this, right? Like the graphics are not really good, and like, is that really a thing? Why should I spend time in the 3D world? And then so he answered like, well, because you're not the target group. And I think for most of the people here in the space, we are probably not the main target group. If you're having kids, they are probably already using Roblox, or they're playing Fortnite, and they're meeting in Fortnite, having parties in Fortnite, like in the game. And it's coming more and more common. And like the more people spend time online, the more they want to express themselves also in that space, right? And I thought that was like a quite interesting answer to this, because probably we are not the main target. It's actually the younger generation that's already growing up with this. And of course, there's the question of like, should we do this? Is it a good thing, right, to do it? But like people will do it and already doing it, but it's probably more like the younger generation.
Yeah, I think it's inevitable. It's just that we have to see how's the best way to do it.
Yeah.
Right. It's not a matter of not doing it. You cannot. This is unstoppable. NFTs are unstoppable because the technology. We are talking about art, but a non-fungible token can be the contract for your house. It can be like, there's so many things. It can be a ticket to a concert. There's so many things that a token can be. You know, an unexchangeable. You know, that doesn't equate to value to something else. And so the technology is going to be, I really think, everywhere in our lives, and we see how early we are when we think about all the possibilities, and then we come to that roadblock where you see, I actually don't know all the things where you can use it for. And I'm sure that in 10 years I'm going to go, wow, I had never thought of that. Amazing that someone thought to use this technology for that. And this is the brilliancy of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Super cool. So I would now open up to everyone here in the space. I see that already some questions have been asked in the chat. Let's have a look into these. And if you want to raise questions, just raise your hand, and then we'll unmute you and you can just ask your question. So just if you have anything, just feel free now to ask. Who wants to start with the first question? Go for it. So I'm seeing some in the chat. One question is actually, who is stopping me to sell our NFTs to our peers over and over again, raising floor price artificially, creating fake hype?
The blockchain, because we can track contracts and track the money and see that that the money is actually coming from one account, even if it's from your Coinbase or your Kraken. You can see the trail of money, and actually a lot of people have been caught doing that. So artificially raising floor prices is a thing. People try to do it and people get caught. So yeah, no, it's a very valid question. But it happens and people get caught because I know like people say, oh no, because the blockchain and the crypto money and money laundering and drugs and stuff. Like it's much harder to track fiat money. If someone gives you a bag of cash, it's untraceable. Then if you have everything stored in the blockchain, so that's the thing. Like I can go through all your transactions. All of my transactions are open for anyone to look, as long as you know which wallet I'm using. But everyone can look at that, and that's the thing. That's how we can keep track of everyone, and keep everyone in check.
Cool. Any other questions from the crowd? There's a question in the chat as well. What are the rumors that MetaMask isn't really decentralized? And maybe I would add to that, because same goes for, I don't know, OpenSea, for other projects, right? Because if you look behind some of the projects, they are quite Web2, a lot of them, right? They're quite centralized in a way. What is your opinion on that?
Yeah, well, we started with tools that came from Web2 to build Web3 on. So we have to accept, well, Solana, for example. Solana, there's a CEO of a cryptocurrency. There's a lot of that mindset still being brought on, but we have to develop tools to go further. But it would be inevitable that we would start building on Web2 to go further to Web3. But some platforms and some solutions that we use are not as decentralized as one would wish. Yes.
Another question I see here from Maria, she asked, how can I get involved if you don't have that much money into NFTs? Do you have any tips, or maybe any collections that you love that might be super cheap and really affordable at the moment?
Yeah, well, it depends what you want. If you want to get rich with NFTs kind of thing, well, you have to find a collection that seems prosperous. What do you see there? Cool art and the community that's building around it. And that the community is what's going to make it valuable. That's what happened with Cryptopunks, by the way. It's not the first project. We thought it was the first, NFT, basically. It was not the first project on the blockchain. But it was the first project that got such a nice community, a valuable community behind it. And that's how it grew and how it became successful. So if you find a project that's starting to build a good community, there's a lot of chance that will be prosperous. So it might be a good bet. This is not financial advice. Like, do your own research. I have to always say that. But it's difficult. If you want to start collecting, I would say start with Taos, because your prices are going to be much cheaper. And even if you want to flip, you can still do it on Taos and generative art, also in photography. You can flip a lot of stuff. Also from famous artists from Ethereum, you can find their works on Taos and also buy there. But to start small right now, I don't even know, like really small. I'm not even sure who I would recommend at the moment. Like as a PFP project, for example, I'd have to look, because to be fair, when you think about it, like one ether is a lot of money, right? I cannot detach from reality. This is a lot of money. So yeah, to pay one ether for something to get into the space is quite a bit.
Absolutely. I see some raised hands here. Just unmute and tell your question.
Yes, first of all, thank you very much for organizing this event, and thank you, B, for participating. Really interesting topic. I have one question. So what stops me from just taking a work of art, which I didn't create, and minting this art as an NFT and selling it?
Yeah, nothing. Well, morals. But then again,
but what if I don't have any?
Yeah, exactly. No, that's the thing. People do it, and that's the important thing, from that the artists themselves start minting it, because if they have their own work minted and someone else comes over and copies it and puts it for sale, we can go back and say, hey, no, this was minted before. This belongs to that person. You are stealing it. And then we go to platforms, that are selling it, either OpenSea or Foundation or Looks Rare, and we tell them to take it down, and Twitter will take down the account as well, because this person is impersonating someone else. So it's a forgery. And it's bad for the entire space. It's bad for the person who's buying it. It's bad for the artist that didn't actually get to sell their own art. So it happens more often than we would like. But fortunately, because the art has been previously minted by the artist, you can see on the timestamp, no, this is mine. I minted it before. And I have a body of work that will resemble that image, that will confirm that I am the artist behind this. So yeah, morals as well.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Another question here from Lisa in the chat is, what should companies do? Should companies also buy NFTs or be in the metaverse? It's actually quite an interesting question, because there are actually some and more companies going into the metaverse actually, right? So there's now, I think, like H&M, right, and like many mostly consumer brands like Adidas and Nike, they're involved, right? What do you think about it?
I think it's inevitable. If the brands want to survive into this new world, they will have to join the metaverse. They will have to get into NFTs, because otherwise they're just going to miss out in too much opportunity for revenue, basically, for their own survival. So they will get in one way or another. There will be collabs like we did with like Nouns and Budweiser, which they got a noun and we got space on the advertisement. So it was like an exchange that we did. But there's also, as Ben said, H&M has their own metaverse. They're not selling metaverse clothing, but they're exploring this idea and how it would work, and showcasing some of their, in the flash pieces to, how they would look in the metaverse. By the way, I don't like to say in real life, because this is my life. I live NFTs. I live on Twitter. This is my real life. I am like, everything that I'm telling you is not made up. I have lived through all of this. So I like to say it in the flesh, like the stuff that I do in the flesh, that I do out in the world, and the stuff that I do online. But they are all very, very real to me. The friends that I have done on Web3, they're also very real to me. And but I think it's inevitable that the brands, like you said, like Nike bought artifacts. They did a great job there, because it's a great company, and they're not going to be more native than that, because Web3 is already here. And it's difficult to hire for Web3. I know some people that are looking to hire some people to run Web3 in their companies. Where do you even find these people? Like, it's very difficult.
Absolutely. And also I see like a lot of talent actually going from Web2 companies to Web3 companies, right? And that is getting more of a challenge, because anyways, a challenge to get the best talent in the startup scene, but that gets more challenging now. And what I actually found super interesting, that many of the Web3 founders are now challenging the Web2 startups, right? So they're basically saying like, we are now disrupting the Web2 startup scene. So for example, like there's always this example of Spotify, and all the artists like, and everyone knows this, like they're not earning much with putting their songs to Spotify. Spotify is getting the biggest share, right? And then everyone's saying like, well, but like I could put my music album on the blockchain and earn way more than with Spotify. So where would I go in the future? Where will I go in the future? Probably to the blockchain, probably to a Web3 Spotify. And I think that will be quite interesting in the next months and years to see, like, will Web2 startups have an answer to that, right? Like that would be quite exciting.
Exactly. I have some music NFT, and from Domino, exactly. That was the first that I bought. I remember him tweeting that with what he did on his drop is what we call like when you drop new work, right? When you put new work out for sale. And what he did on his first drop, on first music that he put for sale, was an album with seven songs. I don't even know how many hundreds of millions of listens he would have had to have on Spotify to be able to raise all the money that he did, to get paid what he did for his art. And it was really wonderful to see an artist getting the money that is due to him, for his work. So it was wonderful also to support him on that. And the music is great, so that's just a plus. But
amazing.
He was really comparing to that. I don't even remember how many hundreds of millions of listens he would have had to have on Spotify to have that money. So How long would it have taken him to get that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's another hand raised. Just unmute and raise a question.
Yeah, hi B, and all the team.
Hey.
Thanks for the talk. I've basically two questions. One regarding the question of Dennis. So basically, if someone mints his art and someone steals it and puts it also on the blockchain, yeah, you can trace it, but basically it stays stored on the blockchain. So you basically have no control, or there's basically no institution that can really erase stolen art or criminality from the blockchain again later on. So no one can basically prevent you from stealing art and putting it or minting it as your own again on the blockchain, right?
Semi, because the work will be taken down by all the platforms that would showcase it for sale. So anywhere that I would be able to find it for sale, I will not be able to find it because it was flagged as something that is stolen. So the NFT will not be available to be found on any platform. So this is something that can do. And if someone actually wants to destroy the piece, I can buy the piece and I can burn it. So I can send it to a burn address on Ethereum, and that NFT will cease to exist. There's no way to recover it. So they're the two things. So either you pay to burn it, which you are encouraging the person to do it again because they're getting the money, or you will contact the platforms and there will be a DCMA, or there will be something to be taken down, and anything linked to that wallet will be taken down. They will not be available to find. So it will be in the blockchain, but no one will have access to buy it, basically.
Okay, thank you very much. Another question regarding Taos. So it's a pretty cool concept. I myself got into it about 2 years ago. And the main big reason for me as a company basically is you have to gain trust from all these people buying into this particular token. So spending real money into that token. And on the other hand, there's always one person controlling the wallet. So there's always one physical wallet where all the money goes to. And how do you control in a DAO that the person really doesn't steal from that, or
but there's more than one way to control a DAO's treasury. It can be a multi-sig. What a multi-sig wallet is that, for example, 5 people have control over it. So all those 5 people have to approve something for that to go through. You have 5 people accountable. And if something happens to one person, other 4 people can either replace this person, or there is more control than just one person that can go and disappear with it. It's called a multi-sig. It's a multi-signature. And this is and this is very valuable. It's again very valuable question, because how do you prevent someone to run away with 21,000 ether? There has to be more. Exactly. No, there are more people in charge, and more people they are held accountable, and so.
Okay, thank you very much.
And of course, also you're not going to have only anons doing it, right? If it's a large amount of money, and there are people behind it, you want to probably have a foundation behind it. What we have with the Nouns DAO, there's a foundation behind it, and like I don't know name of 4156 or Grumbling or Vape, but legal entities do, so that's important as well.
Okay, thank you very much.
Cool. Maybe the last 2 questions, and then we're actually sadly coming to an end. But I see another raised hand here, so unmute and ask your question, please. Not working. Someone saying something? No, I don't hear a question. All right. Any other questions? I'm also looking in the chat. Is there anything? If not, then there's one. Bastian.
Sorry, I have slight problems with my Teams. 1 second.
We can now hear you. Perfect.
Can you hear me right now? Because I have
Yeah.
Teams. Okay, so you said before that there are a lot of projects right now where people get scammed because they put trust in it, and then there's the rug pull. So rug pull, for everyone, that means people take the project off the platforms and you don't see your money ever again. What are your personal red flags if you look at NFT projects where you would say, no, this isn't the project for me? Because looking at this MetaMons that came out recently, people got scammed millions. It's crazy. So
Yeah,
how
no, I think the biggest red flags for me would be the amount of followers. So if you have a new project that hasn't released anything and suddenly they have 100,000 followers on Twitter and 80,000 people on their Discord, I'm sorry, how did you build a community out of thin air in 2 months? No one does that. No one does that. That cannot be sustainable, and it's based on thin air. So I don't trust those projects. Basically, that's it. I believe something that will be built slowly, gradually. It's going to take time. Some do grow fast, but that's fast and then that's absurd, right? And that's, for me, a huge red flag. If a project has too many people following and too many people on Discord too quickly without anything to show, they have nothing to show for it. Like, how? What did I miss? What am I missing here? I don't trust that. I would rather wait, and if it's incredibly amazing, I will buy it on secondary, and I'll bite my tongue. I am yet to do that.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, everyone. It was amazing. Thank you for all your questions as well. And I think, B, you're on Twitter, you're quite active. As you said, everyone can also write you, DM you. So please feel free to follow B, to also follow RiseDAO, because I think it's a super cool project. B, thank you so much. It was super amazing having you here. It's really cool to get all your knowledge from all your years of expertise in this space. So thank you so much for coming.
Thank you, everyone. It was great to be here, and I'm hoping that I was able to part with some knowledge and it was useful to some of you. I'm really hoping so. And if not, just DM me and we can clear things up. So clear things up. Yeah. Thank
Perfect.
you.
Yes. Also from my side, thank you, Benny, as well, and B, for this very insightful talk. I've certainly learned a lot today, and I'm sure I'm not the only one. And if there are no more questions, there's just one thing I would like to inform you about. There's a link to a feedback form in the chat, and we would really appreciate if you just took 1 minute to give us feedback on this event so we can improve even more. That would be very nice. Thank you for coming to this event, and I wish you all a very nice evening.
You too. Have a very nice evening. Thank you all. Bye.
Thank you.